What if the very thing that makes you feel out of place is the very thing that was designed to set you apart? What if your struggle, your silence, your restless ambition was not a flaw, but a signal, a clue that you're not here to fit in, but to rise above? If you've ever felt like you were built different, this message is for you. There comes a time in every life when the world looks you in the eye and says, stay in line, and yet something inside you resists, a whisper, a fire, a deep and unshakable instinct that you were not made to blend in. You were not made to obey the limits others have accepted. You were built different, and until you embrace that difference, you will live beneath your purpose. This message is not for the comfortable. It is not for the satisfied. It is for those who are haunted by the idea that they were made for more. If that's you, then listen with every ounce of attention, because what I will tell you today will not just challenge how you see yourself, it will give you a reason to become who you were born to be. The greatest tragedy in the world is not ignorance, it is conformity. From the moment we begin to grow, we are taught to suppress the very things that make us unique. We are encouraged to color inside the lines, to speak only when spoken to sit still, behave, and blend in. But history has never honored the average. The men and women who altered the course of civilization, who shook empires and built legacies, were often the ones once mocked, doubted, or dismissed. Why? Because they were different, and they dared to remain that way. Consider the example of Thomas Edison. As a young boy, he was labeled difficult. His mind wandered, his questions were endless, and his school teacher declared him addled. Rather than crush his spirit, his mother pulled him out of school and chose to believe in the very qualities the world had misunderstood. Edison's curiosity, once a disruption in the classroom, became the driving force behind over 1,000 inventions, including the electric light bulb. The very trait that nearly had him discarded by the system became his greatest asset. Your difference, whatever it may be, holds within it a unique frequency of power. It may be the way you think, analytical, creative, nonlinear. It may be the intensity of your emotions or the depth of your empathy. It may be your relentless energy or your refusal to accept mediocrity. These are not mistakes. They are clues, signals from your inner nature pointing toward your true direction. Yet most people, out of fear of judgment or rejection, will spend their lives trying to amputate parts of themselves in order to gain approval from those who never truly understood them. That is a slow death of the spirit. Look around you. The most celebrated innovations in the world, the greatest businesses, the most profound art, the most transformative ideas did not come from those who fit in. They came from those who leaned into their distinctiveness. Steve Jobs was known for his uncompromising vision, often labeled arrogant and obsessive. Yet it was that very refusal to settle for good enough that led to devices that reshaped how the world communicates. Oprah Winfrey, told she was unfit for TV, harnessed her deep emotional intelligence, once seen as a liability, and built an empire grounded in human connection and authenticity. These individuals were not successful in spite of their difference. They succeeded because of it. But the world will not automatically reward your uniqueness. It will first resist it. It will challenge it. It will pressure you to conform, to comply, to dilute what makes you uncommon. That is the test. If you cave to that pressure, you will become a shadow of your true self. But if you stand firm, if you choose to see your difference not as a weakness, but as a compass, then you will begin to access a kind of power no imitation could ever match. There is a hidden law in life that most never come to understand. What feels like defeat is often direction in disguise. The common mind sees obstacles as punishment, as reasons to retreat, to question, to give up. But those who rise, those who achieve anything truly great, know something different. They understand that adversity is not designed to stop you, but to shape you. Every fall, every loss, every delay and disappointment is a setup, preparing you for a higher calling, a deeper strength, a more refined character that cannot be developed in the comfort of ease. Take, for example, the life of Abraham Lincoln. Before he became one of the most revered presidents in history, he endured an almost unimaginable series of failures. He lost his job. He was defeated in his run for the state legislature. He failed in business. He lost the woman he loved. He suffered a nervous breakdown. and he was defeated in 8 different elections before finally being elected President of the United States. Any one of those setbacks would have crushed the spirit of a man who believed the failure was final. But Lincoln did not interpret these losses as the end of the road. He saw them as preparation, as necessary tests, refining his resolve, strengthening his moral clarity, and deepening his empathy. Each setback built the foundation upon which he would one day carry a divided nation through its darkest hour. There is a tendency to believe that if something is hard, it must not be meant for us. But this belief is poison. Greatness is not found in ease, it is revealed through resistance. A diamond is formed under pressure. Steel is forged in fire, and the soul of a man is made resilient through trials. When you were rejected, it taught you to fight harder. When you were overlooked, it stirred your ambition. When you failed, it introduced you to your limits and forced you to exceed them. These experiences are not wounds to be ashamed of, they are the curriculum of your development. They are the evidence that life has chosen you for a unique and demanding path. Consider how setbacks redirected the life of someone like Walt Disney. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. His first animation company went bankrupt. He was told that Mickey Mouse would never succeed, and later that Disneyland was a ridiculous idea no one would ever visit. Time and again he faced rejection, ridicule, and financial ruin. But those very experiences forced him to refine his vision, to innovate in the face of constraint, and to build something no one else had dared to dream. The setbacks were not detours. They were necessary components of his destiny steps. He had to walk to become the man capable of birthing an empire of imagination. The same is true in your life, though you may not see it in the moment. The failed job, the broken relationship, the missed opportunity, it all plays a part. It all carves away what is unnecessary, forcing you to become resourceful, focused, humble, and resilient. It may feel like everything is falling apart, but it is often in that destruction that the blueprint for a greater life is revealed. There is no force more powerful in a person's life than a clear and definite purpose. It is the root from which all achievement grows. Without it, the mind wanders, the will weakens, and effort dissolves into aimless activity. But when a man or woman knows exactly what they want, precisely what they are here to do, something remarkable happens. Their thoughts align, their actions intensify, and even the universe seems to respond with opportunities, ideas, and resources they never noticed before. A definite purpose is not merely a goal. It is a spiritual force, a guiding light that drives you forward when others stall, that sustains you when obstacles arise, and that lifts you above the distractions of the world around you. Most people live reactively. They work jobs they do not love, chase goals that were handed to them by others, and measure their lives by comparisons, not conviction. They drift, and drifting, by its nature, leads to frustration and unfulfilled potential. But those who succeed, truly succeed, do so because they made a decision, a clear and unwavering decision about who they are, what they will do, and why it must be done. Definite purpose gives the mind a target, and where there is a target, energy concentrates. Instead of chasing every opportunity, the individual with purpose creates opportunities aligned with a singular mission. Consider the story of Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who became one of the wealthiest and most influential men of his era. Carnegie did not stumble into success by accident or inheritance. He declared early in life a clear objective: to dominate the steel industry and use his wealth to elevate humanity. That vision guided every major move he made. He studied relentlessly, sought out mentors, built strategic alliances, and took bold risks, all in harmony with that definite purpose. His clarity allowed him to make faster decisions, to reject distractions, and to endure hardship with the confidence that it served a higher aim. Even in retirement, his purpose evolved, but never wavered. He poured his fortune into libraries, education, and peace initiatives, stating that the man who dies rich dies disgraced. His life was proof that riches and purpose aligned can reshape a nation. Without a definite purpose, even the most talented individuals waste their gifts. They scatter their energy across too many pursuits, becoming jacks of all trades but masters of none. They are easily swayed by trends, discouraged by setbacks, and seduced by comfort. But with purpose, the same individual becomes dangerous, focused, unshakable, immune to distraction. The purpose becomes the filter through which every decision is made. Does this bring me closer to my goal or not? Does this align with the mission I've committed to fulfill? Purpose also breeds endurance. When others quit, the man of purpose persists. When others doubt, he believes. When others wait, he advances. The inner clarity becomes a fire that burns hotter than criticism, louder than fear, and deeper than fatigue. This is why purpose is not optional for those who seek to rise. It is the foundation, the anchor, the engine of every victory. Without it, success is random. With it, success becomes inevitable, even if delayed, even if resisted, even if misunderstood by others. Before any achievement is made visible to the world, it is first constructed in the invisible realm of belief. Faith, unshakable, immovable, defiant belief is the soil from which all greatness grows. It is not mere optimism or vague hope. It is the deep inner knowing that what you seek is already yours, that your vision is not a fantasy, but a future reality awaiting your persistence. The uncommon man, the rare woman who rises above mediocrity, does not require external validation to begin. They act, move, and build from an internal conviction so strong that even the silence of progress cannot dissuade them. Faith is the foundation because everything else, discipline, resilience, ambition, rests upon it. Without faith, a man will abandon his mission the moment it gets hard, but with it he will walk through fire and keep going. This kind of faith is essential because the path to greatness is paved with seasons of invisibility, isolation, and misunderstanding. The results are not immediate. The applause does not come quickly. The support may be minimal or non-existent, and yet the individual of uncommon destiny keeps going, not because of what they see, but because of what they believe. Take, for example, the story of Henry Ford. Long before the world was ready for automobiles, Ford saw them in his mind. He believed that the average person could own and operate a car when everyone else believed automobiles were toys for the elite. His first company failed. Investors lost confidence. The press mocked him. But Ford had faith not just in the machine, but in the idea that his vision was not only possible, but necessary. That belief carried him through financial losses, technical setbacks, and relentless criticism until he revolutionized transportation and redefined industry through the Model T and the assembly line. Faith is what allows the uncommon individual to take steps when the path is not visible. It gives them permission to begin while others are waiting for the perfect conditions. It fuels the risk-taker, the inventor, the visionary who understands that all great accomplishments are born in the unseen and require action before evidence. Consider also the example of Helen Keller, who, deaf and blind from infancy, lived in a world of darkness and silence. What could she possibly achieve? People wondered. But her teacher, Anne Sullivan, had faith in her potential, and more importantly, Helen came to believe in her own. That faith against every logical argument, every limitation became the driving force that led her to become a published author, lecturer, and global symbol of perseverance. Her story is not one of ability alone. It is one of belief defying all visible barriers. True faith is tested not when things are going well, but when nothing seems to be working. It is in those moments of delay, rejection, and obscurity that your belief must become louder than your circumstances. The uncommon do not draw their strength from what is, they draw it from what will be. Faith becomes the fuel that carries them through barren seasons, through personal doubt, through the ridicule of small minds and the silence of early efforts. It gives substance to the vision long before it is tangible. It becomes the proof within before the world ever sees the proof without. No man rises alone. The people you surround yourself with are not merely companions, they are mirrors, amplifiers, and in many cases, architects of your future. The truth is simple but often ignored. Your environment influences your destiny. If you walk with those who compromise, you will learn to settle. If you spend your days with those who speak of limits, you will begin to shrink your vision. But if you align yourself with individuals who think big, act boldly, and demand excellence, their habits, thoughts, and standards will begin to elevate your own. Association is not casual, it is causative. Who you walk with will determine how far you walk and how high you climb. This principle is evident in every field of achievement. When you study the habits of the highly successful, you will rarely find them in the company of small-minded, complacent people. Instead, they are intentional about who they give their time, energy, and proximity to. Think of the early years of the Wright brothers. These two men, bicycle mechanics by trade, surrounded themselves not with skeptics, but with each other men who shared a common obsession with flight. They built a microenvironment where failure was not shameful, but necessary, where experimentation was sacred, and where doubt was pushed out by shared vision. That association, that united belief in an impossible dream, gave them the stamina to keep pushing through ridicule and failure until they conquered the skies. Your associations feed your subconscious. Every conversation, every influence, every belief system you are exposed to becomes part of the mental fabric from which your decisions are made. This is why the man who is serious about rising must be ruthless with his inner circle. He must ask hard questions. Do the people around me challenge me or comfort me in mediocrity? Do they celebrate discipline or normalize excuses? Do they speak in terms of vision or gossip? You cannot fly with anchors tied to your ankles. Even the most gifted individual will stall if they surround themselves with those who have no hunger for growth. Examine the life of Booker T. Washington, born into slavery, who rose to become an influential educator, orator, and advisor to presidents. One of the keys to his transformation was who he chose to associate with. He surrounded himself with mentors, thinkers, and leaders who elevated his thinking. He sought the company of those who believed in progress, in dignity through education, in power through self-mastery. These associations did more than inspire, they sharpened him, held him accountable to a higher standard, and opened doors that talent alone could never unlock. What must be understood is that association is not only about people, but ideas, environments, and energies. The books you read, the content you consume, the rooms you place yourself in, all are forms of association. If you continually expose yourself to excellence, discipline, and vision, your standard will rise. If you immerse yourself in environments of stagnation, complaint, and fear, your fire will dim. The uncommon individual chooses his associations with surgical precision, knowing that each connection is either lifting him toward his potential or anchoring him to his past. There is a voice inside every individual that whispers truth long before the world is ready to hear it. It speaks not in the language of the masses, but in the quiet, relentless conviction that you were created for something uncommon. From an early age, many feel this pull, an internal resistance to conformity, a discomfort with the ordinary, a tension when expected to think and act like everyone else. But the tragedy is that most ignore it. They trade that whisper for the roar of the crowd, trading authenticity for acceptance. Yet those who achieve greatness never make that trade. They realize that following the crowd may keep you safe, but it will never make you significant. You were not built to blend in, you were designed to stand out. Throughout history, the people who made the deepest impact were not those who fit the mold, but those who shattered it. Think of Rosa Parks, a quiet seamstress whose refusal to give up her bus seat sparked a revolution. She was not the loudest, the wealthiest, or the most powerful. But she had one thing the crowd did not: conviction. While the majority obeyed unjust laws out of fear or habit, she acted from principle. Her defiance was not loud or violent, but it was immovable. And that single act, born of deep internal strength, became a tidal wave for change. Her power came not from numbers, but from the rare courage to act against the grain of the collective. The crowd will always have one dominant message: stay in line. It rewards obedience, not originality. It celebrates safety, not boldness. But innovation, transformation, and leadership have never emerged from the center of the herd. They are forged on the fringes by the misfits, the visionaries, the ones willing to be misunderstood, even ridiculed for the sake of truth. Consider the journey of Elon Musk. He risked his fortune on companies the world dismissed: electric cars, reusable rockets, neural interfaces. At every stage, experts mocked him, media questioned him, and competitors dismissed him. But Musk was not driven by consensus, he was driven by vision. That willingness to ignore the noise and follow an internal compass, however eccentric it may seem to others, is the defining trait of all great builders of the future. Following the crowd requires no courage. It is the path of least resistance. But every time you conform for the sake of approval, you shrink your voice, dull your instincts, and distance yourself from your calling. The world does not need more copies, it needs originals. It needs people willing to think differently, to question the norms, to walk alone if necessary. This loneliness, this separation is the price of purpose. The crowd is loud but lost. The individual with vision walks in solitude but walks with direction. To be uncommon, you must become immune to the seduction of popularity. You must choose principle over acceptance, destiny over comfort. The masses will always gather around what is easy and familiar. But you must be willing to be the one who walks a different path, to be the one who dares to say no when others nod in unison. This is the test of individuality, not how loudly you speak, but how faithfully you act on your inner truth when the world pressures you to compromise. The uncommon life is not stumbled upon, it is forged through decision, conviction, and relentless inner fire. It is built by those who embrace their difference as their greatest weapon, who see setbacks not as signals to quit, but as tools of refinement. It is sustained by a definite purpose so clear that distractions lose their power, and by faith so deep that even silence and delay cannot shake it. Elevation is never accidental. It is the byproduct of intentional association, of choosing to walk with those who stretch your vision rather than shrink it. And above all, the uncommon are those who refuse to follow the crowd not out of rebellion, but out of reverence for the path only they were meant to walk. If you feel like you were built different, it's because you were, and the world is waiting for you to rise, not as an echo, but as a voice.